Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Special Scott Holmes.
And I'm Dave Candido.
We're coming at you with the 1974 or 75, depending on how you look at the release date of the movie The Yakuza. The film that if you generally type this in, you just find the Sega Yakuza. Mostly overrides anything on this one. But this is one of those movies that's been on my list for a very long time because it was one of those Paul Schrader ones, and he's the dude that did Taxi Driver. He did Rolling Thunder. You know, he wrote, well, let me rephrase that. He wrote those movies. You know, he wrote Raging Bull, but then he's also directed his own movies, too, throughout time, like that Richard Gere one, like, I was going to say, is it just called Gigolo, that male? Okay, I'm just trying to blank on that one all the time. I know I have it, Male Gigolo, something like that. I always start getting confused with the Douche Gigolo, Male Gigolo. Yeah, I was saying, no, American Gigolo. I know. That was the thing, is that Rob Schneider one went in my mind. No, American Gigolo is what it was. I know because I have it on VHS. It's, you know, like somewhere upstairs. But yeah, no, the Yakuza. This one that's almost like... if you took it's almost like an American interpretation of the Japanese Yakuza movies that pretty much played simultaneously with samurai movies post World War II, and almost if everybody kind of sat down and went hardcore and you watched a bunch of Japanese movies and said I want to make one of these myself, and that's sort of what it is.
No, that's one heck of a film, man. I was looking at the budget versus the box office earnings, and it's kind of sad because I don't know what happened, but I thought this movie was so good. My wife thought it was amazing too. Sometimes with movies that are from the 70s, I start watching and I think boring is the wrong word to use initially, but a lot of films I've seen from the 70s aren't particularly exciting. Even action movies from the 70s, there's just something about, maybe it was just the directors hadn't been going like ape shit with theatrics and James Cameron-esque explosions and stuff like that, but it just always I always felt like there was something lacking when it came to jaw-dropping scenes, again, for like action movies or thrillers or whatever. And that said, going into this film knowing it was a noir, I wasn't let down at all by the pace in the movie, by the tone and stuff, but I was very pleased. And even with it being the kind of film it is, it still has scenes that kind of keep you on the edge of your seat as a modern action film would be. Like I was gonna say Rambo 4, I think, even though there's some incredibly brutal scenes in there, there's scenes where it's not so much the action that's making you go nuts, but it's like the anticipation of what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And just seeing where this is going to go with what the situation is.
I felt the same way with this. And even those action scenes in this movie, by today's standards, aren't out of this world. I think when the movie came out, people were like, "Oh my god!" Like. That
guy just swing a sword and slash that dude.
Exactly. Yeah. When the main characters, I say characters because I look at Ken and Robert Mitchum as equal in protagonist term. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even though the focus I think really is a little bit more on Mitchum. I look at them both as like just as much of the protagonist as the other. But that first scene where they go and there is actual action, I think I saw something in that. You sent me that like 20-minute YouTube video or whatever about that just kind of went more in depth on the film. They were saying that I think it wasn't Stephen King, it was somebody else. I can't remember. Another director, I think, was like, yeah, the level of violence in the scene was pretty crazy, and for the time,
well, that's that thing too. It's
couple
like
gunshots, a guy gets his arm sliced off, and then there's a guy dead there on the floor, and the focus, I think, was the fact that he was missing a pinky, but
that's kind of it. And that's the thing about 70s movies is like there's always a little bit of a buildup. That's kind of how 70s movies really work. You know, whether they be horror movies, whether they be action movies. And it's mostly that thing where it's a buildup. You actually have almost a little bit more drama kind of stuff like that. But then when the action hits, it hits really hard. And it does kind of surprise you sometimes, you know, even back in the day. Because I sometimes think that a lot of times, even in the 70s, a lot of those movies back there are almost way more like almost unhinged and brutal than a lot of times even modern movies can be. It might not be, you know, maybe special effects wise and so on, like a little bit there, but like something's like what's going on and the things that they do in the movies, you're like, oh, that's actually kind of ballsy. Because even this movie, like when we get a little bit farther on, there's a couple ballsy decisions it makes that you would probably not see in a modern movie necessarily, where it goes like, okay, let's see how this goes. But I want to touch on that because you mentioned the box office, how this movie was $5 million and then it made like a 1.5.
I think it's like a negative 1.5. Like I think it was. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's got a little like it's got the little whatever the wavy hash.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. That means like they're unsure. Like well, maybe one. I don't know. Nobody was counting. You know. Because I don't think in the 70s they took the greatest, like, they didn't pay as much attention to, like the real details of, like, what's coming in and what's going out. But I think this is one of those movies, though, that falls in that exact same issue that Heaven and Earth had. Yeah. Where could be. I think people looked at the trailer and something like that and went, looks kind of foreign to me, honey. Like, was that subtitles? I don't know about this. Yeah. And I hate to sort of say it, but sometimes, like, it's kind of like when you think of Asian movies in general, even martial arts movies, they still are a pretty niche audience thing in the U.S. Like, try to find, like, even if you go to, like, find 10 Americans, you'd be lucky if maybe one of them likes martial arts movies. Like, legitimately, like, will watch a martial arts movie with subtitles. It's not that common, you know? Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this movie kind of fell in that same thing where it looked a little bit too foreign, you know? I think one of the only few ones...
I think if this movie was released today, it'd probably do amazing.
Yeah, it might do better nowadays, maybe. I don't know. I still think it might be.
The only reason why I think that is because now everyone and their grandma has like a Pokemon or Dragon Ball shirt. You know what I mean?
That's true. Once the anime boom and the video games came, like in a sense, our generations, I think that did change it a lot more, you know, because I always think about these kind of movies back then. It's like, other than maybe 007, you know, You Only Live Twice, but that's probably because it's 007, so people were going for that reason more than anything else. I think a lot of these movies always had kind of a hard time. And, you know, if you were into kung fu movies and so on like that, technically Enter the Dragon, that's Chinese, but like that was one of the few ones that was a breakout success. But I hate to sort of say it. Sometimes I think that movie had more of a success because Bruce Lee died and then it came out. You know what I mean? And people are like, well, I got to see what this is all about. You know what I mean? So they go and they will
following and because of that. And
because who knows? I sometimes always say about like if Bruce Lee was alive at least a lot longer, like his movies might not nearly be as big as like what Enter the Dragon was. Like I think that it had like that Heath Ledger thing with Dark Knight. Like that in a sense made that movie skyrocket, you know, and so on. But nonetheless, though, the Yakuza is an amazing movie, and it's like one of those ones. Like hopefully, as time has went on with VHS and DVD and all that stuff, it's made back its money. Because I like to assume that any of these older movies that are actually legitimate movies make it back in the long run. It might take 20 years, but they probably make a profit after a while.
I was looking at the actors and actresses too. The Robert Mitchum, of course, is dead. Unfortunately, you know, Ken Takakura is dead. But what's her name? Keiko Kishi as Eiko Tanaka. She's still alive. She's like 93.
Sometimes, a lot of times, the female actresses really hold on because I remember there's I think it was Maureen O'Hara or one of those girls was like alive till like literally she passed away only like a couple years ago, and I was like, dude, this lady's from like 1920s movies, like. You know, like, what the heck? Like, all the male co-actors literally died in, like, the 50s and 60s. And she's, like, gone the distance, you know? But, yeah, it's so weird how that is. But, yeah, and poor, like, and then you have, you got, Ken Takakura, who literally was one of the biggest Japanese guys at the time. Like, almost like a
Dude, he did, like, over 200 films or something like that.
Yeah. just tons of them. And that was like Paul Schrader really wanted him in this movie because his kind of thing was he was going to try to, make him an American star, you know what I mean? Kind of get that magic going, which that's always the tough one. I mean, even Jackie Chan had a real hard time trying to come over to the U.S. Like, it took him like 20 years, because he first came over, he did like Cannonball Run. They make him a Japanese guy in it, they make him just like the goofy background character. Yeah. He does a couple other ones that are, okay, they're trying. They're not bad, but they're okay compared to like a normal Chinese Hong Kong's Jackie Chan one. There is one though that he does it with the same director as Enter the Dragon. And Jackie Chan hates this movie, but I actually think it's kind of ballsy because it's something way different than Jackie Chan. Because Jackie Chan's like a hard-boiled, Dirty Harry style cop, which you never see. And it's the only movie where Jackie Chan says "fuck" in it and whatnot. I want to say it's The Protector is what it's called.
I might have heard of that.
And then there's actually two versions of it. I was just going to say real quick. There's the American version, which is like the more Dirty Harry style one, and it's a little bit more, darker and so on like that. And then there's a Jackie Chan version where he takes out some of the dark stuff, but he puts in like an extra like 15 minutes of kung fu stuff in there. So it's almost like both versions are really cool.
Do they both have Jackie Chan?
Yes. So like one's the Hong Kong version, which is his, and so he re-edits it, and then one's the American version, which is because it's originally an American movie, And he's got Bill Superfoot is who the guy he battles, who's like an old kickboxer guy from like the 80s. I believe that's what it's called, is The Protector, if I'm not mistaken. I know I have it on Blu-ray.
Yep, 1985.
Yeah. And as I said, Jackie Chan, because I remember in his autobiography, boy, he did not have anything good to say about it. But I actually think it's cool because it's different for him, and I think that's what makes it neat. I know it's not in his style because he so wanted to sell his, his comedy thing to like, that's what he wanted to get across. And at first they wanted him to be kind of a Bruce Lee knockoff. Yeah. Second, they wanted him to kind of do some of these other movies of other characters like Clint Eastwood that he's not, but I think just when you watch all the modern day Jackie Chan ones and you go back to The Protector, it's like, oh, this is actually kind of cool.
Jackie Chan, man, I love Jackie Chan movies. I don't care which one it is. A lot of movies of Jackie Chan, I don't even know what they are because I usually just turn it on while it was on. I didn't start from the beginning, and it just like nonstop fun in those movies.
They're just so good. And some of the best stunts you'll ever see.
I think the only Jackie Chan movie that I know for sure, well, the only two Jackie Chan movies I know for sure that I watched because I watched them from start to finish was,
you've seen Rush Hour.
The one I wasn't gonna. Well, there's Rush Hour too, but I'm strictly talking like him as the main protagonist. Would be the Drunken Master. The what do you call? Well, the Forbidden. Is it the Forbidden Kingdom?
The one where it's him and Jet Li.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not actually the main protagonist, but I love that movie that he did.
I like that one too because it reminds me. It's like Last Action Hero, but for kung fu movies.
Yeah,
think about it because it's like the kid gets sucked into the kung fu world and everything.
Yeah. And then the last one that I watched from start to finish was that Karate Kid that he did, and I guess they're making a sequel to it.
I saw the Last Karate Kid, and he's in that one too. The one where it's got Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan in
it. Did that already come out?
Yeah, that came out last year. I thought it was really good. I liked it quite a bit.
Oh, we didn't see that. I thought it was still yet to come out.
It kind of came and went, sadly, but I thought it was pretty solid. I thought it was a perfect example of like how you can kind of do like it's a sequel / you could almost say it's a Karate Kid for a new generation, but like it worked.
Well, I like that they did that because I wasn't exactly enthused that. Like the way I imagined it before I watched that movie, because I watched that movie like the first one with Jackie Chan. I watched it like a year ago, and
the one with Will Smith's son.
Yeah, and I had the idea it was like he was almost a replacement for Mr. Miyagi, and I was kind of like off put by that, and I never watched it, and I also didn't really care for Jaden Smith, and I just didn't want to watch some annoying kid that was a nepo baby, But either way, I thought the movie was pretty good. So, and I like the fact that with that second one, they brought back Ralph Macchio. I think it would have been a little cooler if they also would have brought back Johnny Lawrence because I like him better than Daniel Son. But I like the fact that it's like, oh no, he's just another Karate Kid. He's not the Karate Kid, you know. But like you said, it's like it's set in the same universe as the original. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I got to watch that now.
The only thing I thought was kind of weird is because it's like, I think to like, once again, the basic audience, they'd be like, oh, Jackie Chan would be perfect for like the karate. And it's like, it's called Karate Kid. Karate is Japanese. Jackie Chan's Chinese. Like, but I think to the average American, they're just thinking, oh, it's the same thing, right? Japanese or Chinese, you know?
Yeah.
So it always seemed kind of weird. Like, I always remember when they did that Karate Kid one, because I think what's his name was still alive from the Street Fighter. God, I'm trying to blank right now. It's at that nighttime part where you're
the dude who's Gomez Adams, Raul.
I don't. No. The Street Fighter, the '70s movie.
No, I don't know.
Why the hell does that not want to pop up on there? But well, as I was saying, it'll come to me in a second there. But I always thought that dude. Why is he not? Oh, he's not in that one either. Sonny Chiba. There we go. God, I knew that was going to take me a moment. But I always thought Sonny Chiba would have been the good replacement for that, because then you would. He's in Kill Bill. He's Hanzo, who makes a sword for her. And like that. But he's in the Street Fighter, which that series in like the '70s is awesome for kung fu movies, or for martial arts karate movies in a sense. But
going back to the Yakuza, after watching this film, now there's a sling of films that I really want to watch. Like Black Rain, I've never seen. Gosh,
yes, that one's a cool one. I could think of. The funny thing about Black Rain is I remember like I ran across that movie a long time ago, like on Netflix when it was like the DVDs and everything. And I was like, Michael Douglas, like Paul Schrader, like Ridley Scott. Like I saw all these things, like this sounds amazing. I rented it, watched it. I kid you not, like it was like literally a year later, I did the exact same thing. I just got all excited over again. And I remember I put the movie on, I was like, oh, wait a sec, I watched this movie only like a year ago. Like, I don't know why. I ended up totally spacing out about it. But that one was a cool one. There's also the one that's like, there's that Michael Crichton one, Rising Sun, in like the 90s. It's got Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes in it. And pretty much this is, like, I laughed so hard when I was watching it because Sean Connery, this is the best way to describe it. He's like an otaku, but it's Sean Connery. It's an otaku coming in here. Let me show you my cool collection of samurai swords and, and like manga comics. Here you go. I've got a full collection here.
There's also The Challenge in 1982. That's not by the same people, but it's listed as a like see also kind of thing. It's like another kind of looks like samurai-ish.
Well, it's like they tried a handful of these ones. Like there's also a Toshiro Mifune and Charles Bronson one that watched not too long ago called Red Sun. Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's what the Challenge is. Got Toshiro Mifune in it.
Yeah, and that's the dude from God, I'm just trying to blank today. But he's from like the Samurai 1, 2, and 3, which is the Musashi Miyamoto movies. Mm-hmm. And he's also in Yojimbo, which is pretty much what Fistful of Dollars is a remake of. In a sense, it's a Western version of that one. And of course, he's in Seven Samurai. He's in a copious amount of stuff for like days. Any Akira Kurosawa movie, he's practically in them all. But there's a lot of stuff, and it felt like they tried really hard, and it kind of took forever. Like in a weird way, you could almost say it took like the Ninja Turtles kind of era to start to boom, and then Rush Hour before like people started to finally really be like, oh, okay, we can start to get into like these foreign movies and so on. But at the same time, I still think they are a little bit of a hard sell to a wide audience. Like, people like us like them, anybody like that's into anime and so on like that. But if somebody wasn't necessarily into anime and they weren't into like other action movies, they still might be able. Yeah, especially, and then like the subtitles I know is always a make or break thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I say that the Yakuza, but the Yakuza only has like maybe a third of the movie has subtitles in it, but they are there, which I think is kind of cool because they could have done the thing where there was no subtitles and everything was just in accents, but I like how they have the subtitles. I like how like even like the American characters speak in Japanese too for certain things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, just pretty much from start to finish, I was kind of enamored by the film. A funny thing, I guess, to be enamored by a noir, but maybe not. But I really liked the music in it. I liked the way that it was filmed. The the contrast between the Japanese, between the city, because he went to Tokyo first, right?
He's there at one point,
and then he goes to
Kyoto. Yeah.
But where his friend Oliver lives, I think, is it not Tokyo? It might be Osaka. Let me see.
I can't remember exactly where he's at, but pretty much it's that one where there's these guys that were all pretty much World War II military guys that were there during the occupation in Japan, in the late 40s and so on like that. And then now they're all kind of older guys coming back here in the 70s.
Okay, it's primarily all in Tokyo.
Okay, yeah, Tokyo and Kyoto and so on. But yeah, these guys kind of, have to come back because one of the dude's daughters is captured by the Yakuza, and they're like, well, we got to go back there, and pretty much, what's his name? Our main character, I guess you would sort of say, Robert Mitchum.
Harry Kilmer.
Harry Kilmer. Yeah, he's the kind of guy who knows Japan better than any of the other ones, so he's kind of called upon there and stuff. He pretty much has this old girlfriend that he knew from back in the day, who pretty much right as he left, when he knew he had to, he bought her a bar so that she would keep going on and so on like that, and she could take care of her daughter and everything. So he goes and visits her and kind of reconnects. The daughter shows up, and now she's like 20 something years old.
Yeah, the guy who plays well, it's not the guy who plays him, but the character of George Tanner, I just knew he was I knew he was bad news from the first time I saw him. And I mean, number one, you're doing business with the Yakuza. No, they don't just abduct people for no reason.
No, there's a reason. There's always a reason.
maybe nowadays there's some people in Yakuza do nasty stuff, but yeah, what's really interesting, what I like about this film a lot, amongst many other things, is they do a really good job of showing how, I was going to say professional, but that's really not even quite the right word I want to use. But they show how respectful and they show their honor, in how they do all this stuff. In contrast, I guess you could think of the movie. I'm sure you've seen it. It came out 15 years ago. I think it was just called Ninja. Oh, Ninja Assassin.
Was that the one that also has Scott Adkins in it as well?
I don't know.
That might just be a regular one. It's called Ninja.
This one's the main character. He's actually Korean. He's a K-pop star called Rain.
Okay. I think I know of that one. Is that the one where he's kind of like running on the cover and he's like slashing upwards, it looks like?
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's a fun movie. It's a good movie. And the initial scene in that movie is with a Yakuza, a sect of Yakuza, I guess you would say. And they're like super disrespectful, real thuggish, and it really makes me think that it's somebody from the US that's never been to Japan and never really formally met with Yakuza made this film.
Maybe Korea, because maybe Korea just has a problem with Japan. Like one of those rivalry things.
Well, it's an American film. They just used this Korean guy to portray a Japanese former ninja.
That sounds about right. That sounds like the American thing to do.
Yeah, but it was. I think it's a great movie. It's fun. It's not incredibly complicated by all means. It's just a fun film. Very, very gory. If you like that,
that's always a bonus.
It's pretty. It's like watching Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Good violence always adds at least an extra point to a movie.
Yeah, no, it's like ridiculous. It's like John Wick level style violence. That's even with Tarantino level, exhibition, if you will.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And but the contrast between how the Yakuza in the beginning of that film behave versus the movie The Yakuza, it's crazy. And I really like that about the film. I like how, I think this is the first scene you see is one Yakuza member talking to a boss, the Oyaban, I think they call him. And they bow, put one hand on their leg and extend the right hand as this is who I am. This is what I do. And this is why I'm here talking to you and blah, blah, blah. And it's pretty cool, maybe it's not very cool to be glorifying crime organizations. But at the same time, it's just it's such a stark difference from the way that we do things in the United States, of course, in more ways than one, in the form of business, in the form of introducing yourself to a crime syndicate and so on and so forth. You know, like here, you know, people are, I don't know, you get shot over your shoes, your jacket, you know, and or just robbed and beat up and say, no, it's just because you were there. And this just paints such an interesting picture on also all sorts of stuff. I guess I could go all day about it. I could talk all day about the way they portray the Yakuza, the Japanese, so on and so forth. It's just really interesting.
Well, I think it's because with the Yakuza, they have those like samurai Bushido traditions that kind of interplace there.
They have their code of honor, which I think is even stated in the film as the right after the opening credits or right before.
And that's sort of the way that I always kind of look at like what makes the difference between mafia and a gang is where like a gang is just kind of primal and everything like that, where a mafia is almost more like a miniature government inside of a government in a sense. They're just like they're in a weird way. They're like a confederacy that like want to try to do their own thing inside another government system.
It's funny you say that. When I was a junior, or maybe I was a senior. Yeah, when I was whatever, I can't remember, but in high school, junior, senior year, whichever, in my history class, my teacher that I had, she was a real bitch. She started going over World War I, and she had said, she just told the class, you know what these are? And, you know, somebody said, they're countries. And she goes, no, they're gangs. And we're like...
She was trying to relate. She's like, this is like, how do I reach these kids?
Yeah, no kidding. And
she watched a little too much like Dangerous Minds and Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, hilarious. Yeah. I like Stand and Deliver a lot.
No, I also like Dangerous Minds.
I don't mind that one. I liked it a lot when a long time ago, and then I rewatched it, and I'm just thinking like, man, this movie's silly as shit. But
oh yeah, it's goofy.
But
Michelle Pfeiffer and everything.
Yeah, but the anyway, yeah. So of course, I couldn't half the time. I couldn't keep my mouth shut, and got me into trouble all the time. And I just said like, what kind of gangs, you know? And she goes, it doesn't matter, they're all the same. I'm like, well, not really. I'm like, you got like Bloods and Crips and, you know, like common street gangs, but then you have like the mafia, you know, like different mafias, Italian and Russian, and you know, like how do I know this? You know, I'm 16, 17, you know, and maybe 18, and it's like, well, pretty much because of Grand Theft Auto and Goodfellas and
movies and
Casino,
television,
you know? And she's like, no, they're all the same. They're all the same. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm thinking like, this is stupid. And then months later,
this teacher doesn't think she thinks in black and white terms. She doesn't think in like the great middle ground of everything.
And then months later, you know, we start going over the 20s, and she goes, all right, and here's what I want to introduce you to, the mafia. And she like almost flip-flopped everything I said. Like, this isn't just some common gang. And I'm like, oh my God. And then long story short there, I got a detention because I opened my mouth. And, but yeah, once again, this, you know, that's just the Italian mob, you know, or the Russian mobs. And once again here, something very different from all of the above, the Yakuza. And not only that, but I mean, I think it said at the point in time of this movie, 1974, 75, the Yakuza had been rooted in Japan for over 300 something years.
Yeah.
Just
from
crazy.
the Edo era. Yeah. That's one of those ones. And it's kind of like, that's the same with like the triads in like China, you know. And I remember, I once again, from the Jackie Chan's autobiography, I remember I learned the triad origin because it was just like a few hundred years ago when like the British kind of came to Hong Kong and everything like that. The whole point of the triads was to protect the Chinese ways and the martial arts and everything like that, because the British were trying to, you know, get them to not do that anymore. And so on like that. They wanted to kind of break their ways. And they wanted to, you know, turn them into an English colony and all that kind of stuff. So the triads, who, you know, we think about as like gangsters and stuff nowadays, but back in the day, they were protecting all the good Chinese culture.
Yeah. But anyway, so Robert Mitchum, he's a detective. He's a friend of the guy who sends him there. The guy Tanner, George Tanner. Robert Mitchum also is Harry Kilmer, but he meets up with his friend Oliver, and they're all war buddies. And they had another war buddy who's dead, and his son is Dusty, the guy who works for George Tanner, and he's there with Harry. Unbeknownst to Harry, he's there to keep an eye on Harry, and he learns that later in the film. But otherwise, he's there as his backup. And George Tanner sends him there, like you said, to go rescue his daughter. Sends Harry there to go rescue his daughter because he feels, he's a prior detective. He's an old war friend. He knows Japan very well, and he knows that Harry has kind of an ace card up his sleeve, which is
Ken,
also named Ken in the film. Convenient.
I felt like that was there once again for like we're gonna get the American audience, so they remember this guy, so we'll give him the name for both.
I wouldn't doubt it. But he knows that this guy Ken owes Harry a debt, and that's because of their time when they were in Japan years and years and years ago. And following the war, Harry stuck around, and he was in love with this Japanese girl who, as far as he was concerned, she had a husband who was dead. Her whole family was dead due to the war, but she had a daughter, and he kind of took her in as his own, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But then out of nowhere, her brother Ken shows up, basically survived the war, was lost, whatever, and then finds his way back. And
he's like one of those guys who got stuck on the island for a while and didn't know the war was over probably for a couple of years.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense. He basically he's real grateful for Harry looking after his sister and everything, but he's also pissed because he's the enemy. And
what's this American doing here? Yeah,
exactly. And so with the culture of, number one, a lot of Asian countries, but specifically Japan here, it's real big on honor. It's basically honor and money. But
definitely, there's just that business stuff. And the funny thing too is this movie really, once again, I feel like it was really meant to explain Japan as much as possible to American audience, because it has so much stuff explained in this movie. It talks about the firebombing in Tokyo and how that practically did way more devastation than both the nuclear bombs. It just burnt that city to the ground, which is really kind of mind blowing because you look at it in the 70s here, how much Tokyo was able to rebuild in such a short amount of time and become a massive city.
Well, it's because they're so efficient,
Yeah, exactly. Because if you burnt down the U.S. city, it'd be that'd be the story for the next 40 years, and then somebody would decide to do something about it, maybe. But
talk about efficiency. It's like when I was in Jordan, our compound, there was 4 nations on one Jordanian air base, and it was the U.S. and the different nations would come and go. But when I was there, it was our U.S. compound, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany, and our U.S. base, it was gravel everywhere, gravel, tents, generators, diesel generators, and everything noisy, it was dog shit. And meanwhile, the Germans, they all have
efficient ones.
Blacktop, fresh paved asphalt, and grass. Middle of the desert, have everything solar powered. There's no tents. They're all in portable houses
things. Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, what is going on? It's quiet, it's peaceful in an area that's not too far away from war. And then I'm like, and of course over there in the U.S. compound, it stinks. It's terrible.
So you feel like Toad from More American Graffiti now.
Yeah. But anyway, that firebombing was nuts.
Well, even there's just so many things of like explaining Japanese culture that like even without even saying stuff, there's like they show like a scene where there's like guys playing Hanafuda cards, and when I always think of those because that's the first thing that Nintendo ever did was they made those cards back in the 1800s, you know, and that's where I always thought that'd be cool to have a set of those, just mainly like if you had the Nintendo ones. But then they show there's like a dude reading a manga at some point, like once again, way before anybody has any idea what this is. You know, there's pachinko machines. There's a whole lot of just random kind of Japanese stuff all thrown together just to try to really explain and really show. Because also I think this is that era too that like this is why 007 movies I think work really well is because he always goes to somewhere else unique in the world, and you're in a sense able to see all kinds of stuff, especially for people that weren't able to travel or anything like that. You can see the entire world through the movie lens. And this movie here, I think, really shows off a lot of Japan in a very good light, and just kind of has all that stuff there. I mean, it might make people kind of scared that they're going to get sliced in half with a katana, but beyond that,
So he Harry goes and like I said, he meets with Oliver. It gets explained who they all were and why he's there now and blah blah blah. He leaves Dusty with Harry after he almost chops his own hand off playing with the katana.
Yeah, cool. Because Oliver, we gotta say, is Oliver. He's like he looks like this old Jewish dude who's living in Japan and just really trying to be as Japanese as possible. Yeah. And he's got this entire like gun collection and sword collection just all up and down the wall. Something to be probably extremely illegal nowadays to have in Japan. Because he's got literally drawers full of guns.
Say, even back then in Japan, I think it was illegal for civilian firearm ownership. So I guess he wasn't worried about it.
Yeah, when you're American, you don't care.
And
but he's got so much. He's got a really cool like house and everything like that. And he's very into Japanese. He's literally cooking a hot pot meal for them when they get there and stuff. And then he tells a story like I think it might be what's the kid's name again? Dusty. He's looking and he sees like the chessboard there and stuff, and he asks him like hey, what you have your plate? He's like, oh, doctor says I can't play chess anymore and stuff like that. You go, what do you mean and stuff like that? He's like, yeah, he says it's bad for my heart. And I think Dusty's like, well, how can that be? It's just chess. He's like, when you play chess as serious as I do, it might happen.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, no, I liked his character, and I'm glad nothing happened to him either, but
because he was just he was one of those guys that you kind of felt like he's going to be the guy who's going to get hit by a stray bullet or something's going to happen. He's going to be held hostage because he was too cool of the cool old nice old man. He's got the cat and everything.
He's almost damn near a pacifist.
He's a pacifist who's got more weapons.
Yeah,
he's got like literally an arsenal. He looks like the dude out of Tremors.
Yeah. Oh man, that's too bad that. Well, no, he did go on to be in I think Tremors 2.
No, he's in like almost all the Tremor movies.
That's right. That poor
Bacon's
guy
only in the first one.
What's his name? Kevin Bacon's buddy in the first one. He died in real life like a couple years ago, I think.
No, damn.
Can't remember his name, but whatever. Nobody probably cares. Poor bastard.
Poor guy.
But
as long as the Tremors didn't get him, that's the key thing. He got away from that,
But yeah, so Harry takes off and you get that real cool noir vibe at this point. He's walking around Tokyo. It's playing that cool jazz almost.
Yeah. It's like jazz fused with like Asian music. So
yeah. And he's kind of taken in Japan, like looking at how things have changed and modernized, westernized almost in some cases. And then he comes upon Kilmer House, which is a bar that he borrowed money from George Tanner years and years, way back when, and made this bar for Eiko, his love, to basically run and make a life for herself. And he sees it. Knocks on the door. She says, "Oh, we're closed," and she sees it's him and kind of like starstruck. She's shocked, and they go inside, and he, he also sees Hanako, who is kind of like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, they connect the dots." He tells her who he is. They kind of connect the dots, and they all rekindle memories and whatever, and reminisce.
Yeah, they go through those photo albums and so on like that, you know. And the nice thing too is that like everybody's kind of, it's not like, I feel like a lot of times if it's like an American movie, if like that Hanako daughter saw him, she'd be like, oh, this guy again. They'd have like such an attitude about it. But she's actually like, oh my gosh, he came back. I'm so glad to see him. And yeah, they're once again respectful, you know. Something that's missing sometimes in those U.S. guys.
Yeah, no shit. And then she gets, you know, he gets down to business after he's kind of frustrated because he's always got the idea that she's hiding something from him, and he's just kind of pissed about it. And he wanted her to marry him, but she wouldn't because, you know, it goes back to the whole thing about honoring, you know, it's their culture, their honor, and everything. And she just had to not marry him for reasons that 100% we don't know at that point. And then, but so she tells him where her brother is because he wants to know, and he's teaching kendo up in Kyoto. So
he's got a cool kendo school going on. And
basically the thing there is he's got a lifelong debt, giri, 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 that he owes to Harry for helping his family out. And
it's kind of like a bittersweet one because it's like this weird one that like he's kind of once again he's kind of pissed that this guy, you know, this white dude, American, was hanging out with, you know, his sister, and we'll see where that goes later. But like, you know, and then but at the same time he's also grateful because he actually took care of her when he was, you know, lost on that island or whatever for many years. So like that's where the indebted is and whatnot. So he knows that, and you know, literally Harry knows that he can ask Ken because he'll have to do it. So that's why he'll help out for sure. You know,
and I think he didn't even want to do it either. George Tanner suggested it in the beginning because he's like, you know, like, you know, Japan, and I need your help. And he's like, hey, and you can get Ken to help you. You know, he's like, oh, I don't want to do that. You know, he's like, oh, you know, he has to do it. You know, so it's kind of at his behest. He goes through with it, and he talks to him. They don't exactly like each other either. They're not really pals, and but he's got that debt, so he honors it. And he helps him. He goes with Harry and Dusty to the place where George Tanner's daughter is being held captive. And he tells him at first, like, stay in the shadows. I don't want you being seen. And him and Dusty try to handle it themselves.
Well, doesn't Ken? I want to say this real quick. Doesn't Ken say something this a little bit beforehand? But like he says that he hasn't used a sword in 10 years because he's pretty much been. You know, so, I haven't used a sword in 10 years. Did you teach a kendo school? you know, like, you swing it. The wooden sword doesn't count. You know.
It's like, what is it? You have freaking Samurai X over here.
So he turns the blade around.
But
which I feel like would probably do more damage realistically if you get hit by a blade like that's a blunt instrument.
God, either way, I don't want to be hit by it.
It's either you're gonna be sliced all the way through or you're gonna get like just massive bones.
internal bleeding. God.
Well, that's like Masashi Miyamoto, dude. He literally whooped like tons of guys' asses with just a wooden sword when everybody else was fully armed with real weapons. And he killed people like left and right with this wooden sword like a badass.
Hey, it's the handful of them out there, you know?
Just like one of those ones. He was more deadly with like that kind of instrument than he was with a real sword.
That's hilarious. But so him and Dusty barge into this room where I think they're gambling. And
gambling. Guys all sitting around a table. Dusty. There's that one dude reading. That is where the one dude's reading manga.
Reading manga, yeah, exactly. And they just bust in there, and it's kind of hilarious. They're just like, "What the hell is going on here?"
Just two white guys come busting in the house all of a sudden.
Like, what reality is this? But
a couple of those Yakuza guys, so they're like not wearing shirts. They just got like that kind of like like almost like that like extended underwear thing on.
Like samurai underwear.
That samurai underwear, just sitting around with your buddies.
Yeah, and Harry, so he busting through the door. Dusty busting through the window, and they're just all held up. And Harry looks, he sees George Tanner's daughter there, and he realizes that she's knocked out with like drugs. and it seems like he's got a pretty good handle on the situation. A guy comes up behind him, which Dusty shoots.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the big mistake here, and I think this determines how the rest of the movie goes, I think is purely because of Dusty.
Dusty screws it up. The young buck.
He decides to come in through the window instead of just keep watching like he is. And because of that, nobody sees that there's another guy behind Harry, except for Ken. Ken sees it, and he picks up a katana and cuts this dude's arm off. Who's about to? I think he was about to shoot. Either shoot or stab Harry.
Shoot or throw a knife or something like that. Yeah.
And but he cuts this dude's arm off and saves Harry's life. But of course, that right there does multiple things. It caused Ken to pick up the sword again. Mm-hmm. It caused more deaths of this Yakuza family and Yakuza syndicate group, whatever. And
because they started like blasting more guys now too at this point.
Yeah, they killed. I think they killed 3 dudes total in that night. Yeah, 3 or 4, but I think it was 3. But either way, so now they realize this is kind of screwy. I don't think anybody knew who they all were, except for they probably knew who Ken was, because Ken is a former Yakuza. But, he got out. I can't remember if he was kicked out or got out or whatever.
Yeah, retired of some kind,
But yeah, so he, as they get the girls out of there and go to leave, that one guy from the beginning of the film who was talking to George Tanner saying, he brings a piece of her scarf or sleeve or something, says, if you don't pay us for the gun. So I think we failed to mention too that the premise of this is George Tanner was going to do an arms smuggling thing with this, with the leader of the Oyabun of this Yakuza group, and he lost his guns, and so the Oyabun is saying like, well, I want my money back, or I want my guns. I don't want my money back. I want my guns. So he kidnapped his daughter. So brings us back to this happening here where Ken, picks up the sword. They kill a few guys or whatever. The guy who was negotiating with George in the beginning of the film shows up, and he's like, I got to tell, it's like Tono.
Goro.
Oh, no, Goro's
a little bit
Ken's
later.
Brother.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Tono is the crime boss, is the Yakuza boss.
Okay, yeah. And I want to say that like a lot of this like stuff with the guns gets brought up, I think, almost after this, because I want to say Dusty's the one that spills the beans on all this. He goes, "Yeah, man, this is what George was doing. He's going to cut me in on some of the action. I thought I should let you guys know." And he's like, "Yeah, should have let us know before we went and did all this."
Yeah, exactly. Later on, after.
Yeah, not that much. Pretty much almost like after this scene, I want to say that's where Dusty starts to tell everybody that like what was really going down.
It was a little while later.
Or maybe it was
because after that scene, that negotiator came in and was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna tell Tono, like he's got to know." And they're kind of like, "Crap, what now?" And you realize now Ken's in trouble again. Like there's just such a chain of events and such. It makes it so complex because there's no, in this kind of situation with with this particular group of people, that organization and everything, there's no like, hey man, we did this because you did that, and that's all there is to it. It's like, no, like it's like you got to check off boxes as to what to do now. You got to get approval to move forward with taking action against this guy, and from the other crime bosses, like there's so much that you got to do. Unless they're not honorable and they just hire people to kill you, but
but they're gonna follow a code. They're like, that's the one that you can kind of count on a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And but they're just like, well, they get back to Oliver's house and George Tanner's there. Harry gives him his daughter, and he's like, Ken, so what now for you? And he's like, Tono's not gonna do anything. I'm not really worried about it, and I think he's just blowing smoke to Harry. And so him and Dusty are pretty much like okay, well, we're going home, I guess. And he decides on, as they're leaving, he goes, no, I don't think so. And Eiko, he sees Eiko again. She tells him, I saw Ken last night, and he was about 3 a.m, whatever. He seemed really worried. And she says that he didn't say anything. She just feels it, and blah, blah, blah. So then Harry decides, because he knows that this Tono crime boss is he's gonna have a problem about it. He talks to Eiko, and she reveals she's got another brother, Goro. And he's also Yakuza. Everyone's Yakuza. Yeah. And it's just so deeply rooted, it's crazy. He goes and talks to him, and says like, well, can you help out Ken? Can you talk to these other crime bosses? And he's like, no, I wish I could, but if I do that, Tono's gonna convince them that I'm weak because I'm asking for leniency from my brother, and I can't look weak because I'm trying to be the Oyabun of whatever. Like there's so many things. He's like, I've considered it, but because of this and this, I can't do it. And he talks to him too. He talks to Harry, saying like, oh yeah, my brother's talked about you. He calls you the strange stranger. And there's a reason behind that. It's once again, it's something it's not just, he's not just calling him a weirdo. He's saying like I think it comes down to something about him being a foreigner, but not acting like a foreigner. He's respectful. He's
yeah, because literally Harry's like the guy. He knows the culture. He can talk the language. In a sense, he gets it a lot more than most people would.
Yep. And but yeah, so he tells him, like, well, what can we do? Like, what can be done about this situation with your brother? And he tells him, he's like, well, Ken can only resolve this by killing Tono himself with a sword, only a sword.
Yeah, because it's the honorable way. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says, or someone else can just kill him in any means they want. And he tells him, he's like, you can go kill Tono. And Harry's like, no, I can't do that. And it's like, why the hell not? You just killed a few other dudes. Just go kill this guy. Who cares? And he's like, no, I can't. And so that's the way that goes. And he goes back because he's still trying to work something out. He's trying to solve this. And I think this is where him as a detective, he's trying to, dot all of his I's and cross all of his T's and really trying to nail this, in the most honorable and probably ethical way he can, and an efficient way. But there's not really much that he does until some bad shit happens. And before that does, Dusty does reveal to them, he's like, yeah, by the way, I got something to tell you. Dusty and Hanako, by the way, they have a little bit of intimacy that's kind of brewing,
Yeah, they're sort of talking in the kitchen and whatnot. They're having some laughs and so on. It just seems like, well, here's our two young characters being put together, And
what's cool about that too is, like you were saying, that there's so much in this film that's revolves around Japanese culture and popular culture, societal culture, whatever. It's the same thing with Hanako interacting with Dusty. She pours him tea. And then she tells him, because he's about to take a sip, she goes, no, don't. She's like, hold it in your hand. Feel it.
Yeah, she warms the cup first with her hands.
With her hands, yeah.
So the outside is as warm as the inside, in a sense.
And little things like that. It's really cool. This is in a lot of Asian cultures, a lot of Eastern cultures. But, you see it a lot in Japan, too, if you pay attention, is how much care and how much sentiment is put into everyday activities that would seem mundane in the U.S. There, it's like you putting so much into everything. It's almost like, why wouldn't you? Whereas here,
it's like
a cup of coffee, you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, but food, cleaning, tea, all that stuff over there, each one is a special moment each time. You know, you don't just do it to do it. You really it's a part of like discipline and respect and you know, enjoyment, which makes sense. You know, but America just like slug that bag. You know what I mean? Chuck the Pepsi can across the room. Whatever. I'll get that later or not.
Yep. And so they get they have a little bit of a bonding. They bond a little bit there, but then. And I think right before this too, Harry has also kind of argued a little bit with Ken. After, you know, rescuing the daughter and whatnot, he goes and meets with him at some bar. And he's like, you know, like, why can't you just let your sister marry me, man? Like, just let her be happy. What the hell's wrong with you? And he's just like, my sister can do what she wants. It's no big deal. And I gotta say this really quickly. When they go to that bar, there's like karaoke going on in the background. Once again, more Japanese culture stuff in there. But there's a song. They're singing, "Oh my darling, oh my darling," but they're singing, "Oh my darling, oh my darling." And this is what makes me laugh. It's not just the dude up there singing that song. Is it pans through like the audience and everybody's like mouthing it and singing it. Like, and I just picture a bunch of. I'm like, is that like a Yakuza popular song right there? Just like, oh boy, I can't wait till he plays Clementine. Like
I was just laughing so hard. It's like that was not the song I was expecting, and it was like the third song that they played on that karaoke night. So like it kind of came out of the blue. So
you and I have another thing we share in common is we both worked at some capacity at Silver Spur. And
Silver Spur, for if anybody doesn't know, because it's kind of a hidden place, but it's a little Christian camp tucked up in the mountains of Tuolumne and so on like that. And I just worked there because it was another lifeguarding job that actually paid way more than the other ones, and it was nice and casual. It was like the perfect one.
My last stint there was because I had nothing better else to do. I had no job. So I was like, oh, I'll make a little bit of money. And it was dog shit money. And they had me do really stupid stuff. But anyway, the one of the guys I knew that was working there, he also lived there. Dude was something else. But he told me that his bedroom was not very far away from their worship center. And he said that one weekend they had, I think they were Chinese, some Chinese worship, Christian church was there, and he said that he heard him singing, "Oh, how he rubs," and he's like, I felt so bad, but I couldn't stop laughing, you know, and I just kind of remember that, oh my daughter, crap. That's what I thought of. Of course, it's racist, but.
Well, it's just happening in the movie. I'm just observing it, and I'm not laughing for the fact that like the way they're singing necessarily. I'm just laughing the fact that that's the song that they chose, and everybody in that bar was super into it. That's the weirdest part. If it was just one guy up there who's, you know, a few cocktails in and he's singing this song, I'd be like, yeah, go for it.
You think they'd be more into like Johnny Cash or something? I don't know.
Like I get the American music, but that was like a real weird. Was like, yeah, we're gonna go real hardcore of this.
But yeah, no, that was pretty funny. And then right after him and Harry, Ken and Harry have that conversation, he's like, Ken says, you know, my sister can do what she wants. Eiko can do what she wants, and he just takes off. Harry does, and Ken goes to the bathroom, and these other Yakuza members kind of give him a heads up, and they say, you know, some people would pay a lot of money for the American. We have no problem with you. What do you say? You know, and he's like,
we have no problem with you. What about that guy that sliced his arm off?
Exactly,
how does that guy feel about it?
Exactly. And he kind of shrugs it off and doesn't give him any satisfaction, you know, and they end it with, you know, some people pay a lot of money for you too. And he kind of is just like, uh-oh. And so not long after that, they show Harry and Dusty in some bathhouse.
Yeah,
and,
because once again, more Japanese culture.
Yep. Dusty's like distracted, I think. He's looking on the other side. He's looking
at the naked women across the way through the glass that you can't see through. Yeah,
exactly. And then some guy, another Yakuza member, goes in the pool. He's got a small knife. I forget the name of it, but whatever.
The small
little
katana.
dagger, little dagger, and swims over to Harry, which I don't know how you didn't see this guy. It's kind of weird.
He's coming underwater. I don't know. Maybe it's, you're just you're relaxed. I think that's what's supposed to be. You're relaxed. You don't expect some dude to come swimming underwater, submarine style with a knife.
Yeah. So he goes over and he slashes Harry in the gut. And him and Dusty kind of get this guy and subdue him and kill him. And then it goes back to, being over at Oliver's house. Eiko's taking care of Harry, patching him up, and Ken's kind of feeling bad. And he comes by and checks on him, and him and Harry go for a walk pretty much after that. And Dusty's left with the other with Oliver, Eiko, and Hanako, and once again they start to have a little bonding moment there. But all of a sudden, Tono's men come into the place, and you'd think by now people would have the idea that paper walls weren't such a good idea.
Yeah, because they just storm through there and they grab Eiko and just have her held up at a knife point and everything like that.
But yeah, they got them all a knife point, and Dusty kind of once again, I wonder if this did more harm than good.
Yeah. Because Oliver felt like he had the situation kind of under control. He comes on down and he's speaking Japanese to them, telling them to calm down. We can all kind of do this and so on. But not old Dusty. Dusty's a cowboy.
He swings this lamp over towards one of them, knocks him off the stairs, and all of a sudden...
We got to explain this real quick. There's literally there's 4 of them in there. There's 15 Yakuza guys. The odds are not in their favor here.
No, I would have said, okay, I will do whatever you want.
Yeah, it was not evenly balanced, but Dusty, the wild man he is,
I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he puts up a good fight. But then of course, by some miracle chance, Harry and Ken show up as well. But in the midst of all of it, they take out the majority of the Yakuza. I think a couple of them run away.
Yeah, Harry literally goes early day John Woo. He's double pistol firing in here.
Yeah. And in the midst of it all, I kind of saw it coming too, because they, after everything, the dust is settled. Dusty gets fatally stabbed.
After the dust is settled,
the dust. Yeah, he saves Harry, shoots one of the Yakuza guys, and who's about to shoot him, and in doing so, the guy, after being shot by Dusty, stumbles onto the couch. And you hear the gunshot go off. All I could think about was, I bet that hit Hanako. Mm-hmm. And sure as shit, they all get up and, where's Hanako? Oh, she's behind the couch dead. And that was a pretty poetic scene, I must say, because there's Dusty dead and there's Hanako dead. The lineage of this family is dead.
The youngins are gone.
Yeah. And
see, that's the stuff that I feel like in a 70s movie you get that you wouldn't maybe get if it was a modern day movie.
Yeah. The son of a dead man is now killed. The daughter of a supposed dead man is also killed. And that's just all there is to that. And Ken's just losing his mind. His he goes over and mourns his niece's death, and as does Eiko, and I almost said John Wayne, and Harry's not too happy about it either. And in the midst of all that battle too, Oliver's upstairs and holding his cat, yelling everybody to stop, and that dude, it was kind of hilarious. You would think he had some pistol stash somewhere up there.
Well, he's got more guns than anybody. But he's not prepared for home defense.
No, he's got a cat in his hands.
Yeah, and, he could have chucked that cat as well. Just jumped on one of the Yakuza guys, scratched his face up.
I know, right? And so then, they Harry and what's his name? Not Goro. Ow. Harry and Ken kind of prepare to go make their last stand.
Well, isn't this is the part right here though where we learn the real major thing going on. Before that happened, because when you see Ken and how much it's okay, we go from what we know so far, it's well, that's his sister, that's his niece, and he's almost way more sympathetic for it and so on. And I want to say this is the part where it reveals it's no, this is actually my wife. Or is that not yet?
It's a little later. So right before they right before Ken and Harry go out for a walk and shoot the shit, and Dusty's there at the house, that's when he reveals to Harry, like, hey, I was sent here not only to be your backup, but I'm also supposed to be watching out for you. George wanted me to watch out, make sure you didn't screw anything else up, and or screw anything up and whatnot. And
which of course Dusty's the one that screws everything up.
And this is when he learns too. This was after he got stabbed. After Harry got stabbed, before the Yakuza guy that did it, before they kill him, he says, like, who sent you? Who did, and he tells him, Tanner. And
George's
like,
guy.
What the hell, And it's like, what an asshole. This George Tanner guy.
He's just cleaning up loose ends.
Yakuza,
yeah.
Has his friend go get his daughter. His friend has to ask another guy to help him out, and in the meantime, he ruins the rest of his life, and and then after all this, he decides to try to kill him. But
he's going to clear up all the loose ends in a sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like I said, I thought this George Tanner was a piece of crap, and I was right.
Yeah, exactly. And even Dusty, he didn't even know. He thought he knew this guy, but he didn't.
Yeah. So he wants to help out best he can. He tells me, he's like, yeah, after this, I want to help you guys out. And they're like, yeah, sure, okay. Well, then he dies. He dies defending, everyone. And unfortunately, Hanako dies too. But so from there, him and Ken basically said, like his plan is he's going to go take out Tono and whatever. And Harry is not really, at this point, it's like technically none of his business. But he goes to Goro once again. Him and Ken both, actually.
Yeah.
So Harry shows up to Goro and he tells him, like, what can we do from here? And then Ken shows up and he says, like, this tragedy has brought us together again, because they haven't spoken forever. And they basically make the plan. We'll go after our assailants. And Harry first goes to Tanner's office in Japan, or in Tokyo, I guess, or wherever it is, and smokes everybody, all Tanner and all of his lackeys. He just gets them all. And I love how there was no dialogue between Tanner and him. No, why'd you do it?
Yeah, no. It just goes straight into shooting.
Goes in, Tanner throws something, you son of a bitch, and Harry just smokes him, and that was that. And then he goes back and
he's dual pistol in it once again too.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then he goes back. He tells Ken, he's like, I'm going with you. He's like, no. He's like, I did it. And I figured he's talking about killing Tanner, so he goes with him, and they go take out all of Tono. Actually,
I gotta
how
say,
this goes is kind of incredible.
Before they even get to that, though, is Goro the one who tells him that, like, hey, when you go there's one guy that you're gonna find that's got a spider tattoo on his head, looks like a fucking idiot. That's my son.
Yeah. And,
you know what? He's made a lot of mistakes, but if there's something you could do to bring him back or don't kill him, they bring that up, and it's like,
So Ken promises to him, he's like, like, there will be no harm that comes to him. And then I think it's before they go to Tono's place is when Goro mentions to Harry, he tells him, and this was like the bombshell of the movie. And this kind of like was just like, it was so nonchalant, and it was like not an exciting reveal by any means or anything, but I guess just the way the story's told, I was just like, wow, what cool, like the peak storytelling. But he tells Harry, he's like, I got to tell you this. Eiko had an elder brother, but it's not me. I am not Eiko's brother. And neither is Ken. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then he says, like, Ken is her husband. He was her husband before, like he went off to war, and he doesn't specifically say it, but he's like, and it's implied, of course, is that Hanako was his daughter.
Yeah.
And of course, that's why he mourned her so much. And because Harry told him, he's like, yeah, man, Ken just lost it over Hanako's death. And so,
yeah. And that's why he's really down for this revenge more than anything, is just because it was ultra tragic in some way. Because I will say from initially the beginning, you know, and I feel like the movie leads you this way, it makes you kind of wonder if Hanako was Harry's daughter, even at the very beginning. You're kind of like, they have such a connection. Like, is it one of those kind of things there? Like, I mean, that very first scene they kind of meet.
I think they said explicitly that he basically took care of her like she was his own.
Yeah, I think they clear that up. They clear that up like not too farther later. But I think when the initial reveal of her, when she walks in, I kind of wondered that, and then it explains that. I want to say. I don't know. I could have been making that up, but but I feel like this movie does kind of lead you in this, and then you kind of realize right by this point that there's this interesting love triangle that like almost none of the characters really knew about. Well, I guess Ken knew about. I guess Eiko knew about. I guess Everyone knew about it, but Harry. He's the one who's very out of the loop, and now he just probably goes, "Well, gosh, that just makes. I thought I was being a nice guy. Now I just look like an ass."
Oh man! And then of course before Tono makes any plans of killing anybody, before Tanner has anybody try to kill anybody, he meets with Tono, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm really sorry," and Tono's like, "Tell me the truth, even if it embarrasses you, you need to tell me the truth." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I never had the guns, and I tried to get some, and it just didn't happen. And I have no money. I don't have any money. And so I borrowed your money to try to make some stuff happen, and nothing's working out. And I love it because Tono's like, why didn't you tell me this? Like, what? Like they're like best friends. You know what I mean? And then from there, that's where the other events get set in motion. Tanner sends the guy to kill Harry. It doesn't work out, but you're like, dude, what a piece of crap. But anyway, but yeah, so I love this, the climactic scene of Ken and Harry raiding this Tono's place, because most action films where they get to the lair, they get to that base of the main antagonist, it's like you think of Commando, which I'm excited about, but in the end of that film, like Arnold mows through like wave after wave of henchmen, and then finally fights the main guy at the end. But this was like totally the opposite, which I've never seen before, and I think it's pretty awesome. They bust in there, Harry and Ken bust into this place, and Ken just walks through their gambling game, like walks across the table, goes right into Tono's office, kills this one henchman, and then kills Tono. Yeah. And then he fights everybody else.
Yeah. And it's all kind of slow pacing, kind of that samurai style too, where like you're kind of waiting for it, because this action scenes, it almost feels like it's probably not this long, but it feels like it's almost like 20 minutes long, know, because it feels like it's in there, and there's a build up, and they're all kind of going. And this is what makes the Paul Schrader movies always really cool, is they always end in a very badass, bloody, violent action scene towards the end.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome. There's some awesome swordsmanship, and so Ken gets slashed in the back right across his tattoo. They show his Yakuza tattoo, and yet he's still going and just wipes everybody out. And then he also meets, finally, I think it's the last dude that he kills, is Goro's son.
Yeah, and he's got a cap on it first, so you knew something was coming. First.
He puts him up against the wall. The hat comes off. He sees the tattoo, but he also, his memory is going with seeing, thinking about Hanako and her being dead, and he can't take it, and he just kills the guy. Yeah. And of course, one more thing that is shameful, in his mind. He's like, oh damn it, I did it again. I screwed up again, and
I told him I'd bring his idiot son back, but I didn't. He was too stupid to come back. I'm sorry. He's gone. He's long gone.
Yeah.
You see that spider tattoo on his head?
And basically from there, that him and Harry, of course, he's blowing dudes away with, his shotgun and his pistol, and And
yeah, he comes in with a pistol in one hand and a shotgun in the other. Just
yeah. Yeah, you got this Japanese Western fusion here of combat, and just they do it. They complete their mission with one casualty, but they go back, meet up with Oliver again, with Eiko, kind of everybody. Harry's making amends and saying his goodbyes and whatnot, and he says so long to Ken. And gets in a cab and takes off. But then he thinks about, the fact that Eiko was really his wife. He thinks about the fact that Hanako was his daughter. And he realizes him coming back to Japan has ruined this guy's life even more. So he takes the decision upon himself to go back to Ken. And initially I thought, hey, he's just going to, I don't know, maybe tell him like, hey, man, I know that you're her husband and like, sorry. And so
well, I was gonna say is right before this.
Before that, they go back to Goro's.
Yeah.
Go back to Goro's, and they tell him like, yeah, we did it, and Ken tells Goro like, oh man, I'm sorry, sorry about your son. I'm so sorry, and they're like, well, okay, this is what it is. That him and Harry and Goro are just sitting there, and Ken's got the little dagger in his pocket in his waist, and Goro sees that he's about to commit seppuku. Yeah, and there's another name for it. I can't remember, but he stops him and he tells him like, the loss of my son's unfortunate. I don't want to lose a brother too, and he says some other stuff, but basically he keeps him from killing himself. Ken's like, okay. And then he puts his pinky on the table. He does this real quick. Puts his pinky on the table, takes his blade and cuts his pinky off, folds it up in a napkin, gives it to him. And Goro initially, he's like, what the fuck? Like, Ken, damn it.
It was okay. It was like, I didn't even like that kid. I mean, I just kind of want him back, just, I thought I could make amends, but it wasn't that big of a deal.
And, but there it is again, like
honor,
fulfilling a debt. It's all about honor. Like, I did this, so I have to repay you. And the thing about the pinky was like, they said it early in the film. Dusty asks Hanako, like, I saw this guy without a pinky. What's up with that? And she's like, well, when, in the Yakuza, when you do something real bad, that could be necessarily like you should pay with your life, but we're gonna instead of doing that,
you get like a free get out of jail card.
Yeah, pretty much. And that was that. And when you see Ken do it, that's pretty amazing because like it's like he's slicing butter, like
he just like wraps it up like he's giving the dude a croissant. Like there you go,
nothing happened.
Yeah.
And so then fast forwarding to Harry going back to Ken's place. So here I am thinking he's just gonna like apologize and tell him he knows about everything, and he's like, yeah, I need to talk to you formally. And Ken's like, okay, I'll go get some tea. Harry sits down and gets out a blade, puts his pinky on the cloth and goes for it. And the difference between Ken cutting off his pinky and Harry cutting off his pinky was hilarious, really. But Robert Mitchum did such a good job, like in this whole scene, because he makes it look like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like this was a terrible decision, but follows through. I have
to go through it. Yeah.
Follows through.
And it's just like to him, he's just like, it's almost like where I feel Ken's probably seen this happen many times. So he kind of knows what to expect when he goes to do it himself. Where the other way is Robert only knows about this, or Harry only knows about this in like idea more than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, he just saw it happen, I guess, recently, when Ken did it. But so he's like, I guess I have to. But like, and then he's just the pain that he sort of got, like when he's doing it, and he's just be like, I have to owe you this, for what I've done to you. Because in a sense, by coming back, this jacked up this dude's life even more.
Yeah, and he tells him that. He basically says like, I brought you shame, or I destroyed part of your life or whatever, and then I'd ruin the rest of your life. He says something future, I can't quite remember.
It's really well written, very poetic.
Yeah. And like, so here's my debt paid off for you. And Ken comes back, he sees it there. He's like, oh my God, which I'd probably be like, I feel like he would be more shocked that an American did that than than anything else. And just as they're continuing to talk, I started laughing because I'm like, this is great. And I'm sure this was exactly what would happen. Harry's talking to him, and you see like he's just sweating like crazy.
Yeah, like, this is yeah.
I owed you a debt. Oh, and then I think he basically passes out.
Yeah, because once again, it's just like wait a second.
And then after that, he says his goodbyes to Eiko again, and him and Ken both go to the airport together. Mm-hmm. I think even Eiko might have said goodbye at the airport or something, but no, him and Ken together go to the airport. Ken watches him leave, bows to him and gives a proper send off. And at that point, they're almost like brothers.
Yeah, but this moment has solidified them, and all the bad kind of drama and stuff beforehand, and not anymore. Now they are literally a team.
Yeah, and then that's pretty much it. And man, with that ending, it's almost a shame that there was not like a sequel or something. Maybe that would have been a detriment to the legacy of this film.
Yeah, well, and this is the era too where sequels are not really a thing yet.
Yeah. And I think this is Robert Mitchum's last film, right?
Yeah, I think it was one of them. I don't know if he had too many more. Yeah, it might have been. Let's see, because how long did he go for? No, he went to 97, I guess. 1997.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It wasn't his last film. It was the last film he was a lead role.
Oh, maybe that's what it was then.
The main lead, I mean, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that might have been kind of it, because they always kind of say that he was one of those guys who was a really big actor back in the day. He kind of got a little bit more forgotten as time went on and so on. Yeah. But yeah, and then we ever talk about also too is Sidney Pollack's the one who we talk about this movie like Paul Schrader is this, but he just wrote the script. But Sidney Pollack's the one who directed it, which that dude also did Jeremiah Johnson. I don't know if you've ever seen that one before, but that one's super good with Robert Redford.
No, I've never seen it.
Yeah, that one good, kind of like violent and brutal and so on like that. But he also did all kinds of other ones too, like he did that Sabrina remake, he did Tootsie, he did Out of Africa, he did quite a few things. But kind of a wide genre thing. Like action movies aren't maybe his first and foremost. Like this and Jeremiah Johnson, I think, are kind of like the only main ones he did. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, like overall though, this movie I think is just super good. The story's fantastic. I actually think it'll almost be even a better movie like the second time I go to watch it too, like later down the line. And now that you know all the stuff about it, and then you're able to absorb even more out of it.
No, you could definitely watch it multiple times and catch little things here and there. Like I said, they throw so much of Japanese culture and lifestyle, I guess, that's in this film that's really interesting. They show how Japanese culture and Western culture start to blend, of course, too, and that's pretty great. I can't think of much in terms of criticism in this film. There really wasn't anything that I found to be like dumb or silly or whatever. It's just a really great story. I think the only thing that I could criticize has nothing to do with how the film was made or the film itself. It's just within the story, is that Dusty's kind of a ding dong.
Yeah, but that's supposed to be it, though. He's the kid, he's not the brightest
If it
guy.
wasn't for his character being the character that he is, the story wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah. He makes the child mistakes, or whatever child, the youngin' mistakes, because he just doesn't have the wisdom yet, and so he's brash and he's quick, and, and he's, thinks about it, before he acts before he thinks, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, no, everything about this one, it's like, I just love the living daylights out of it. It just makes me kind of go like, I feel like Paul Schrader's scripts, even though I know they get kind of changed, like every single time he gets kind of like a little bit bummed out because his movies are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Each time somebody kind of takes a hold of it. I think in this one, what the Sidney Pollack kind of added to it was he put that like love triangle thing in there. I almost think the Paul Schrader script doesn't have the love triangle thing as much. you know. But I think the love triangle thing actually adds to it.
And you don't even know about the love triangle until the end of the film.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is I feel like it makes for a great like, oh shit, that's what's going on here. That's why. You know, you think he's just protective over his sister, but it's like no, he's protective over his wife.
And that's what makes his character, Ken's character, so much better. That's why it's such a moment of clarity. You're like, this is why you're a standoffish, reserved guy, you know. And it's like, you know, you think of anyone else, you think of yourself, you know, like, could I behave like that? I don't know if I could. You know, I don't think I could. And that's just what's so crazy about it. It's like, once again, honor before everything else.
Yeah.
You know, like, and even at the end there, what Harry says to Eiko is, or what she says to him is like, I guess you have no more secrets, or I guess I have no more secrets. And he's kind of like, but it's like, what a reveal, man. And to think like that she also carried that her whole life, you know. And once again, Harry here is the only one that's out of the loop.
Yeah, nobody wants to bring it up to him, you know. Guys,
I guess Hanako might not have known, but then again, you don't know. Maybe she does know.
Yeah, maybe she does. We're not too sure there, you know. So yeah, it is one of those ones, but I think that does make for a cool surprise reveal and everything like that, you know. And sometimes that's the thing, is I think the blendedness of like both the director's vision combined with the original script. I know that's the same way of Taxi Driver too, is that one's a little bit different as well in like the script version compared to like what Martin Scorsese does and so on like that. I know that's like the one that Tarantino brings up in one of his books, as he talks about that, and he's like, this is the thing that does not exist in real life, but it's the white pimp idea that was a Harvey Keitel, and I think it's in the script. It's like it's a black guy who's the Harvey Keitel character, you know.
Which one is that?
Taxi Driver.
That's right.
Yeah. You know, it's so unlike that, you know. And I remember because Tarantino goes off on this great like rant, like in his book or whatever on that. But
Tarantino loved this movie.
Yeah, well, he likes it seems like he really likes all those Paul Schrader ones. There's a whole chapter section where in that book, Cinema Speculation, where he talked about Rolling Thunder as kind of like, it was like the main one.
That's another one I really want to see now.
Dude, I kid you not, that Rolling Thunder one is so good. And I've watched it like 3 times since I initially got it, and I love it. Every single time I watch it, it gets like that much better, you know. And it's something about those Paul Schrader movies. As I said, Taxi Driver's in that same kind of category too. You know, because I remember the first time I watched that movie back in the long time ago, because my dad always really liked that one.
Yeah.
But that one is kind of like that one where, for some reason, I expected a little bit more action for some reason. Like when I first watched it, like I don't know, I guess I was expecting to be like kind of like Dirty Harry or something like that. And it's kind of like just how like the Yakuza is, where it's a little bit toned back a little bit, but then when there is action, it's really badass, but it's kind of few and far between. But it's that one that the more times I've watched it, you know, you get more and more out of it, and it's just like, oh yeah, never mind, this stuff's great. Even if the guy makes some weird decisions, you know, when he goes to take a girl on a date, like yeah, let's go to the porno house. That's what girls like on a first date. That makes you seem like a stand-up, safe guy.
Yeah.
You know, but no, these Paul Schrader ones I think are always interesting, you know, and he's got a bunch more that I know I've never seen. Like there's one called Hardcore that's got George C. Scott in it and so on like that. And we were going to talk about like Cat People, because we both haven't seen that one either.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a bunch of these neat ones that would be fun to track down and take a look at. There was
another one. I don't remember who was the director, but it was The Hitcher. Was mentioned in that. Let me see, because this got. I don't know why it was mentioned. I forgot already why it was mentioned in the that video you sent me
thing or whatever. Yeah.
But that was whatever. I don't know.
But yeah, no, it's like I think the Yakuza is one of those ones that's kind of a definite hidden gem. I mean, sadly, it didn't make a whole lot of money back in the day, which kind of made it probably a little bit landlocked or lost in time. But it's also a cool thing because it's literally a co-production of Toei and Warner Brothers, so you got both Japan and America coming.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool actually, because the only other time I've seen Toei was watching like Dragon Ball.
Yeah, and Godzilla. I always think of that. You know, in a lot of like Japanese movies that they pop up, they're almost kind of like the Disney of that era, or of Japan in a sense. They own almost everything over there.
Yeah.
You know, But I thought that was kind of cool. I think Red Sun was like that as well too. I think it was like a dual production type thing. And it was like that thing. They were trying out all these cool movies, and once again, I think it all kind of stemmed from Enter the Dragon and so on like that. Just the bummer kind of was is nothing else seemed to be nearly as successful as like Enter the Dragon. So when people were sort of chasing it for money reasons, they weren't getting it, but they were getting great films out of it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. But, no, man. I don't know what else to say. It's
yeah. One of those ones. It's too good to like not check out. That's the thing. It's like,
I'm also just started watching the Big O, which
I love Big O.
Makes me think of it. The movie made me think of Big O because it's also another noir that's an anime, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that one's a great one. That's one of the few ones I kind of still want to get for like my final kind of collection of like. I just want all like those like animes that I watched back in like the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
that's kind of what I'm doing too.
You know, so like Big O's, I don't own that one, so I just want that one, and I don't have the Gundam Wing for some reason, like on a
Gundam Wing.
Yeah, I know you can watch Gundam Wing on like Hulu it's on YouTube literally. Somebody's uploaded them all there, but I wouldn't mind owning that one just because that's kind of like one of those major, you know, like those. 15...
That was the first Gundam I ever saw.
Yeah, that was well. I think that was the first Gundam they really put in the U.S. and then the other ones started coming in secondary.
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, nothing but good stuff. You know, this is a great, in a sense, the Yakuza is such a great like introduction to like Japanese culture, and the more you know about Japan, the more you can kind of spot and so on like that, and just like all the stuff that they touch on in here, it's pretty darn cool. You know, it goes to show that these guys, well, I want to say Paul Schrader's brother, who was the dude who came up kind of the idea of the story, was literally living in Japan. So he was just hanging out there. So he had a good idea of how everything kind of worked and so on. And he said that like he was hanging out like at the bars and he'd see the Yakuza guys there and so on and intermingle with them and whatnot. But yeah, if you've never checked out the Yakuza, you got to go out of your way and watch it. Well worth it. You kind of have to buy it or rent it. I don't think it ever appears on anything streaming wise or anything like that.
I don't think so.
You know, I have just a digital copy of it myself, and but yeah, so well worth checking out. And as I said, I think that the next time I go to watch it, I think I'll like it even more. You know, I think and I already like it a ton right now. I almost would look at it like it's close to a perfect movie.
Was this the first time you've seen it?
Yeah, it was the first time I've watched it. I bought it like a year and a half ago or something. And I knew I was like, I'm gonna get around to this, and it might have came from when I think it was when I literally was reading that cinema speculation book for Tarantino, because I think, you know, Rolling Thunder, Yakuza, all these other ones, I'm like, well, I haven't seen these ones before, so I kind of deep dived into that a bit, but just never got around to it. But yeah, beyond all that, there's always more fun. Movie reviews, video game reviews, comic books, and all that good stuff at Old Man Orange on YouTube and Spotify. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Dave Candido.
And we'll see you some other time.